on today's episode of All About Life with Danielle Brown.
How do you love each other, enjoy each other, cherish moments together when they're not sexy? Because you don't have that privilege right now.
Postpartum is no joke, like just trying to find a rhythm and figure out, who I am as a mother, who I am as a wife.
A lot of the struggles that we faced though were my past relationships that I'm Danielle's first boyfriend, first kiss, important. First everything.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot to get to know and work through in relationships, but we definitely trudged through some mud there. Carson and Erin, welcome to All About Life. How are you guys? Don't laugh.
We're wonderful. How are you guys?
We're doing good. We're doing good, guys. It's been so long since
it really has.
I feel like we've seen each other since we were all in Charleston, and then we all kind of ditched at the same time and moved on. It's been so long, but how is life? So much has changed. You've moved to Florida. You now have 2 baby boys. Give us the update on what you guys are up to these days.
You can see one of them.
There's one here.
Yes, so we are in the thick of newborn life right now. So our son Cash is our oldest. We had him last February 3rd, so right on the tail end of Charleston. Danielle, I think you might have been able to see him once in the car.
Yes, literally one time in the car with you.
Yes. And then I think we all moved at the same time, April, right? Yep. April, May. So we moved to Orlando, Florida, and then had a lovely surprise of getting pregnant again.
Just a few weeks later.
So got pregnant in June and then delivered Cruz. So that's the one in my arms on February 27th. So
2 February boys.
Yeah, technically maybe Irish twins. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm still they're 12 months apart. Almost 13, but we'll go for 12.
Hey. There you go.
We say we want ours close. I don't think that close. That's age.
I'll take 2 boys that close.
Yeah.
Same age group in sports for really both years.
Yeah. No, I think it'll definitely, we talked about, it'll have its easy parts, things that they can do a lot together and share. But we've heard the first 2 years are just a fog.
But at least you can play man one-on-one. You're not playing zone. Yeah. Zone coverage. You're on man-to-man coverage right now.
That is definitely what's happening right now. So we're making it.
I love it. Tell us y'all's story. Start from the beginning, because we met you guys in Charleston from church, and y'all were recently married. Now you have 2 boys. I feel like it's all happened so quickly, but take us back to the beginning. Tell us your love story.
You started.
Okay, so she's from Virginia. I'm from Arkansas. We end up at college at Coastal Carolina in Myrtle Beach. And who would have thought, but there was a ministry that I started called Soul Young Adults. And it popped up around my sophomore, junior year. Now, Erin was a year and is a year or 2 older than me.
A year, 18 months.
Yeah. So we met one night, and I think it was the School of Business. We were hosting an event there, and my kind of ploy was to influence athletes, sorority, fraternity, people with influence on campus, and shine a light of Jesus type of deal. So we were young, doing our thing, serving some fried chicken, etc. And I meet this group of girls, 80 Pie girls, and Erin was one of them. Now, that was kind of the beginning, but there wasn't a lot of spark just yet. I was actually dating somebody.
It was just a high and by type situation.
Yeah. It was hey, I, now I know this person. I know these handful of people that do all these things on campus. Okay. Then we fast forward, probably
3 years?
Probably 2 years. Probably 2 years.
Yeah, because it would have been your senior year.
2 years later. So nothing happened. I'm in my zone. She's doing her thing. Life is great. ended up going through a breakup on my end. She graduates from Coastal, stays there to work. And my senior year, I had a great group of guys around me, and we ended up kind of ramping up the young adult ministry and all those things. And one night, on a Thursday night,
Super Bowl party, right?
I don't know if it was Super Bowl party, but it was, or was it Tongi's? Was that the first?
Are you gonna tell that story?
I won't tell that story.
You can tell that
but
story.
I mean, if we're getting real, we got to this place, you know, people are hanging out and there's like a dance floor and whatnot. And it's kind of embarrassing having to tell this story because it's just funny, and I do feel bad, but it is real.
But
and
it's totally
I'm with one of my buddies, and we see Erin and her friend Kayla, and we're like, hey, let's go talk to these girls, like they're beautiful girls, etc. We go over there and we start talking, and it's like, hey, you want to come hang out, like dance floor, and ends up getting like a slight rejection. But I don't feel like it was, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't one of those like massive rejections. It was just like, hey, not right now. And I don't know if we grabbed hands or I grabbed a sleeve or what it was just like, hey, you know, come on. And she darts towards the bathroom and slips, flies in the air and falls right in the middle.
And what does lovely Carson Case do?
And I thought it was sad, funny. I didn't know what to do. And so I just laughed with my friend and we ran away. That's how it all began.
Next time.
Yeah.
I literally was like, Kayla, like, I do not want to hang out with him. Like, we got to go to the bathroom. You know, I'm sure everyone's had one of those moments. And I'm pretty sure I had heels on, wet floor, sticky floor. I am a total klutz. And so I fall, and they just laugh, walk away. Some other guy helps me up, still don't know this day. And I'm like, what? A brat. Okay, so we're like not talking to them. That was like, I think that was October. Yeah. So then we can fast forward to good old Soul.
Yeah, I blame it on I was in a hard place in my life. Yeah. So
understandable.
We learned early.
So then, you know, we actually end up for real getting connected. I think I invited her to some of our hangout nights about 8 times. Right. And finally on the 8th time she came with a group of girls. I thought it was really awesome because we're hosting this event. You know, there's like, you know, 80 to 100 people there. She ends up staying really late, upwards to like midnight, and putting up chairs and cleaning the place. And we had rented out like this apartment venue. And so through that, I was kind of like, yo, this girl's like pretty awesome. Like she's staying, she didn't have to, she could just roll out. We had like already some of our team there. And this was kind of, you know, before we get into Charleston, it was like some small ministry that we were doing and just really trying to help with the campus of Coastal Carolina. And so it was important to me because I saw this girl who didn't really have to do much, started to just like engage and insert herself and care about other people. And she was talking to a few girls and she was helping somebody. And all that to say, I think that's who my wife is now. But I was like, okay, my eyeballs are open. Like, what's up? And really through the coming months, we got really close. We, you know, went to different things together, went to the movies with groups of people. We did some ministry together. But what I will say is, as part of our story, I was really, I guess, broken and hurt from the past. So I was like, hey, I can't go on a date yet with this girl. I can't go on a date yet with this girl. I'm just gonna chill. I'm gonna hang with my friends. I don't want to ruin it. I'm not sure. And that was a lot of my mindset going into it for probably about 4 to 5 months. So we would say and joke, we were friendly for 4 or 5 months in groups of people, but it was more of me who wasn't sure, I guess, in our story. And then we went out to Tropical Smoothie. We had some hard talks. That probably were not her favorite either. Again, wasn't sure. But you know, lo and behold, I ended up trying to give myself a year of time from my past relationship as a young guy and just say, hey, like, I don't want to pursue anybody just yet, but when I'm ready, I'm ready. And crazy enough, can't make this up, we ended up going on our first date at Co's Sushi in Market Common in Myrtle Beach. One day after my year drought of just kind of hanging back. So we did it the best way we could. And we really started to make it official. And that was 5 years ago.
Got to be 5 years in June. So
5 years ago,
similar
yeah.
timeline to you guys. 5 years.
Yeah.
So, wow, I mean, crazy. I just graduated college, and
21.
there was nothing on paper of what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. But I mean, I think we knew, pretty early on. You can tell a little bit about the trip if you want to.
Yeah,
to
we were
California.
Something to highlight too, because I know I'm sure single, dating, engaged, married, all of the above will be listening in. But we hung out in groups a lot, and I had never really done that like in pursuit in the past. And so we were able to get really close.
Yep.
I feel like a lot quicker and like less intimately, because we were just hanging out. I mean, it was almost like, if you remember, like, or if you had this back in high school, like you had like just this, good group of friends, guys and girls, and like it was just fun and lighthearted and like, all that. And so it was kind of like, it was really just fun. And I was like, okay, we'll just like see where it goes. Like, I love hanging out with these guys, even if anything like never came of it. Like, I was really content. And I feel like that's where the Lord just kind of like prepared my heart in a way, and kind of guarded me in those like 4 or 5 months. Cause really looking back, I was like, yeah, it was annoying, but I was like, it's fine. Like, we're just friends. I'm not like really expecting anything.
Right.
And then it turned out, but yeah, so really we start.
What I would say, I'm glad you highlighted that, because I'm sure it'll come up in more serious conversation. For us, I think it was important because I never really experienced that, where, it's easy in today's world to just kind of like go head first into like dating somebody, seeing somebody, Snapchatting somebody, Instagram DMing, et cetera, et cetera. And for us, it was not perfect, but I think we could say, and some of our closest friends could highlight that, we had a group of like 4 to 8 people that always hung out. Yes, people were flirty. Yes, we were going here and going there, but it allowed us to really be super friendly, as she said, without being like intimate and odd for a long period of time, to where I look back at, who she is as my wife now, with, my boys and living in a different state and all these things. I look back and say, we really got to know each other on a super like real and authentic level that I think is rare in a world where a lot of us who are young, you're just kind of chasing something, you're chasing, and you hope that it works out. And sometimes it's like a crash and burn moment. So thankfully, God kind of protected us from that. And we had some great people around us, and it was super fruitful.
Yeah. When it kind of went, we took things pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, after we started dating,
yeah,
to go fast.
So,
which maybe was a part of it.
Right. We started officially dating in June, and then got engaged the next March. So that was what, 8-9 months.
Yeah.
And then married in November of that same year. So really, it was like a year and a half.
Right.
Almost 2 years to kind of when we were like really just like kind of hanging out, knowing each other. And like, we had always kind of said, I think maybe to like protect the people, they were like, oh, like it's so fast. But like, we'd known of each other for so long, and like to us, and really, time, it's different for everybody. There's no, you hear like, oh yeah, back in the old days, we like got married within 6 months, and then some people date for 10 years and then get married and then have crazy long marriages, So it's like, you just can't put a time stamp on it. So for us, it was pretty quick. We started dating the end of June. He had a wedding in California 2 weeks later.
Yeah, about a month later.
Yeah. And was like, want to come? And I was like, sure. So we went out to California, rented a convertible. We spent so much money on that trip because we stayed in 3 different hotels, and we stayed in different hotel rooms.
Yep.
And so we
big ballers.
literally, it was just like, okay, like we want to do this right. Like, we don't want to like just get into, over our heads. And so we were
we had the time of our lives. We were there for 4 days. We walked some beaches. We had a convertible. Life seemed to be perfect. And then we came back, it got super real, but in the best way. It was, I think that moment really cemented like our journey and our now marriage, because that was 2 months into like being serious. And I always say after that moment, it was like, we're going to get married.
Yeah.
And then I proposed, 6 or 7 months later. So
that's kind of.
So there's more to the story, but that's a short version.
That's a short-ish version.
Short-ish version. We have to share our story now on the same topic. We have 2 different versions of our story.
Wonderful.
But on the topic of everyone's timeline and relationship looks different. And I did have a question that y'all just touched on that I wanted to bring up was, did you have this moment? Solomon told me this story where you asked one of your teammates, hey, who had gotten married, did you have this moment of like, when you know, and that's the response he got was, when you know, and Solomon and I talk about this all the time that like,
that's never, not me.
We didn't have that moment. It wasn't like, oh, like we're on a date, the sun is setting, we're on the beach, he's my husband. That I'm not that type of personality. And I remember like being nervous, not about him, but like everyone's like, are you sure? Did you have this moment? And I was like, am I supposed to have that? Like, I never had that, but like I knew he was the one. Everyone's like, well, how'd you know? I'm like, I guess when you know, but like just after time, it was like, well, and I'll share.
There wasn't just a moment, like a clean cut break where it's like, oh yeah, she's my girlfriend. Like, no, that's my wife. Like, that's going to be my wife.
Yeah.
It
was a gradual process for us.
Yeah, we could say, very gradual.
What's your take of our story of how we got together?
I think we had a lot of mountains and arguments at the very beginning.
Interesting. I was gonna say go to the beginning.
Well, if we want to go to the
jugular.
If we're gonna go to the very, very beginning.
Yes.
It was super coincidental at Charleston Southern. A lot of people come in at the very beginning and they leave after a semester or so on. Right. But me and a friend of mine were super late to the cafeteria, and Danielle was with a friend of hers at the cafeteria too, real late. It wasn't even at the cafeteria, it was at the Brewer Center, and my friend knew her friend. So I was like, all right, well, I guess we can sit with them instead of being completely weird. We're both real talkative, me and my friend. And so we sat there, and I learned all about Danielle in high school. She was a pageant queen, and she danced and all this stuff. And she doesn't remember me at all because, as you saw, my wife likes to have conversations. and so
I do remember that happening.
She does not. She remembers it only because when I tell her.
No. I remember lunch out there. I remember sitting there with my friend. I remember guys joining the table. I didn't know the guy was Solomon, and I don't remember the actual conversation. Like, I remember he brought it up, and I was like, how'd you know that? He's like, we talked about it before. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, so then I never saw her again for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no. It's not like I kept track of her. It was like, let me. There you go.
He has a rule. What was your rule?
Oh, well, back then, I was like, I'm never going to ask a girl for her number the first time I meet her. I was like, 1, I'm not that thirsty, or 2, like, you never know if you're going to see that person ever again. I was like, and I'm not going to change my schedule to go see this person. So I was like, all right, well, and again, I never saw her. So 2.5 years fast forward,
Now we're juniors, because that was freshman year. So now we're juniors.
Yeah, so I wasn't playing, but now I'm playing. Someone slid in my DMs for a show that she was doing at school.
No, it really was. So Solomon was a star football player, as we all know.
That's not true.
And I was a star news personality.
Yes, you are.
But I was on the school news show, and I was building my reel, and I wanted to go into sports. So I was inviting athletes to come on the show to add to my reel to be part of like the interview and stuff. Okay. So I did message Solomon. I did not slide into his DM. I did technically on Facebook.
I can pull up I still have the Facebook messages to this day of the conversation. Yes.
But
and so I stood her up on the first one. Because I completely forgot that I had class. I got my days mixed up.
Laughing at you when you fell, like you asked to dance and then you leave.
This was like maybe 30 minutes before the show.
Yeah.
I was like, I completely got my days wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm in class. school above just about anything at that point in time, really. And
So we rescheduled. And in the meantime, he commented on one of my Instagram pictures, and all of my friends, and then that's when I was like, oh, he is kind of cute. And all my friends were like, oh my gosh, he commented on your Instagram. And I was like, he sure did, didn't he?
How little of a gesture that was. It's really swept her off her feet there. And then so obviously, came on the show. Mm-hmm. We did the show, and at the end, I was like, instead of sliding my DMs, you can just text me in front of everybody, in front of all the people. And she's like, you just want my number, and I was like, and so I gave her my phone.
Bold.
No, I took your phone.
Yeah.
I took her phone and I put my number in it. Oh, sorry. I put my phone number in there. All me being a flirt, I guess, or whatever we can say back then. I knew I was like, she has to text me first. And if she doesn't, no harm foul, I move on, she moves on. But if she texts me first, I knew she was interested. So I was like, she texted me about the show.
I did, because here was my thinking.
Yeah.
Was if I text him, see, isn't it a good thing I texted? I was like, if I text him and it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, it's about the show. I'm not embarrassed, because I texted him the next day and I was like, hey, the show came out. Did you see it?
Meanwhile, me and my best friend are just like in the room, and I literally, when she texted me, I turned the phone and I was like, interested. I was like, look, I didn't even read it. I think I just saw your name pop up and I was like, interested.
Yeah. And then ever since then, we had a talking stage of 9 months, because it was winter break. Then I studied abroad, and then it was summer. And then that August, we started dating officially. And then we got engaged on our 3-year anniversary.
But a lot of the struggles
anniversary.
A lot of the struggles that we faced, though, were my past relationships. I'm Danielle's first boyfriend, first kids, important. First everything, because she waited. And I mean, I guess being real, I waited to have sex with my wife, and I thought that was like me holding, the gift. Like I was like, this is my gift. But I obviously had other girlfriends and messed around myself, but not, having full sex in my mind.
Right.
But that was huge hurdles to her, which to me, I was like, you would not find anybody, truly, not many people else that hold themselves that are, I'm sorry to say it, as good looking as I am too, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. But but I was literally like, we had a lot of fights about past. And I was like, what am I supposed to do about this? I can't change the past. I didn't know you existed. I never was like, Danielle's out there somewhere. Like I didn't, I was thinking in my own case, in my own walk, that I was doing great. Like I was doing good. Like I was saving myself essentially to give that to my wife. And for a long period of time, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, my wife has to be a virgin, was holding all these standards and everything. And truly, probably a year before I met Danielle, I was like, it's never going to be that way. I was like, I made mistakes. They made mistakes. They lived a life. I lived a life, like, what is that going to be? Well, then lo and behold, I had somebody that has done nothing. So then I really looked like I was the super bad one. And like, I was like, man, this is how I would have judged people. And we opened our eyes to each other, and like how our different walks, our different styles of walking with Christ was definitely an issue. Not really an issue, but
I think when you start dating, like Solomon had a history, right? And I came he was my first boyfriend. He was my first kiss, everything. So there was a lot of learning, and we also grew up very different, even in like the church. And so like I was raised, my dad was a pastor, and then he didn't grow up as faithfully in the church. And so there's just a ton of differences in what you're used to and what you're expecting. Like Solomon said, I thought it was great. I waited. I'm like, no, it is, but I'm struggling to get over these other things. Like, and that's still hard for me, and for him to understand that, for me to understand where he's coming from. I mean, there's a lot to get to know and work through in relationships, but we definitely trudged through some mud there.
And where y'all discussed of saying like y'all were able to hang out in groups and everything, our groups were completely different. Like I'll either hang out with her and her friends, and she would hang out with mine, well, me and the football team mainly, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Had a lot of friends.
but it was like my football guys wouldn't ever really be.
We just weren't in the same group.
Yeah, we were very far apart.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to I mean, we were real, but it was mainly with each other, I guess, and having distance was all we had to do was talk. We really didn't have a physical connection, or I just physical
like in
touch.
person. Yeah, I tell a lot of people actually what helped me. I have a friend who's in a long distance relationship right now, and long distance can be really hard. And I remember we had to give ourselves a lot of grace because even dating, we were long distance for a while. I was in Charleston, he was in Clemson for 2 years. At that point, we were dating and had been dating for a few years. But when it comes to like communication, a lot of things are easier to do in person when you can hold hands, when you can hug it out, when you can kiss. And so when we're at long distance, only communicating over the phone, it can get lost in translation. But it did aid in like all we could do was talk. And so we were forced to talk it out, to work it out, to understand how each other talked. I think that was the biggest thing, is learning how each other communicated and our love languages. So I wanted to ask you guys about that. What was it like for you to learn each other and how y'all are different? What are y'all's love languages, and how are you alike or different in that way?
I feel like we talked about that the other day, like we're still learning each other, like just so much. I mean, I feel like it's a lifelong journey of that. As far as love languages go,
Erin's probably better at this than me, than kind of explaining it. I mean, I would say real quick and then pass it to you. I feel like a lot of, and most people will probably say this, but as you had said, Danielle, in the beginning, like our journey, our lives have been really sped up. And that's not something that I'm like, hey guys, like we're going faster than everybody, but things have happened so quick for us where a lot of times recently I'm having trouble with trying to like get a grip on like where we're at. It's like we've moved 3 times in our 3 years of marriage. We've had 2 boys. We've had multiple jobs, whether doing ministry or some sort of like community building. You know, we've gone from Myrtle Beach to Charleston to Orlando, and you know, I've been in college and she's been out, and just a lot of even some other like nitty-gritty things. And so I say that because I think we've seen a lot of each other in a short amount of time. We've changed a lot. I know I've changed a lot, and there's been, you know, a lot of rough patches of, I think, us kind of soaring in our faith and us soaring with other people. We're very extroverted and etc. But in a lot of what's happened, I would say probably in the last like 1 to 2 years, there's been a lot of like valleys and a lot of lows. Now, thankfully, I think God's showing us more of like how to learn each other and to love each other. And I mean, I don't know what I would have done in the past year or 2 without her. And hopefully she'd say the same. But I think as I sit here now, yeah, I mean, Erin's right. It's like, I feel like we have just been through like hell and back together in a lot of just like deep ways, just like mentally and spiritually, and just emotions and just people like leaving and etc. But at the same time, like, I feel like it's day one again, you know. We're still new to our current situation. So like there's a lot of like learning of like how to like serve my wife as a mom. And then now how to serve my wife as a mom of 2, which I feel like, man, last year I was just doing this, right? Like I was just learning this. So that's super funny, but also like super difficult because you're like, man, I mean, 1 kid's awesome, 2 kids is a little crazier, then 1 of your kids is up and wild and running. And you know, I think for us, part of it, I'm a little long-winded than what I wanted to be, but I think things stick out to me, like, you know, running a business as an entrepreneur and being in a new place and all these other new things that have happened. It's teaching me, okay, like how can I love my wife differently? How can I serve my home differently? How can we be different and continue to shine the light that we've always wanted to shine since, we were 20, 21, 22, for Jesus and to help people and to impact people, all the while juggling all these balls that are like trying to grow a family. And I'm like, man, we're kids. Like, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I think, just, man, it's just been so seasonal. Like, there's been so many snapshots, I think, of Carson and Erin. And I think people who are closest to us would probably say that, but also in the best way. Because as I sit here now, I'm like, man, we're just getting started in something brand new. Some brand new way of like loving each other, leading with each other, parenting with each other, taking care of the house when it's crazy wild, with just toys and food. And there's legit, I mean, this is real life right here.
Yeah.
Goldfish on the floor.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
And having,
Yeah.
having those conversations of like, okay, how are you? How am I? What are we learning? What are we blind to right now? What can we pray for? So I don't know, just a lot of different Carsons and Erin's over the past 3 years. It just feel like supersonic, just the way that things have changed.
Yeah. No, time is just like literally crazy. Like, if you would have asked us, probably, I think back to like our marriage counseling, like our few sessions going over love languages and stuff, I'm definitely like, okay, I hug it out. Like, I totally connected with that. Like, we never thankfully had to do long distance, but I'm definitely like, okay, physical touch, like, I need to know like you're there for me in that way. And I feel like you're probably words of affirmation and just encouragement. I used to be really good about writing notes and cards and all that. But then you fast forward and really, like, as a mother, as a father, like, our identities and our relationships, or our relationship with each other, other people, like, I mean, everything changes like so much. And so we've had to, especially me, I joke, like crying literally, like postpartum is no joke, like just trying to like find a rhythm and figure out, who I am as a mother, who I am as a wife. And so connecting, especially, the last 10 months pregnancy, just trying to figure out each other in these like new versions of ourselves. We're still like definitely in the thick of it. I think like really what we've connected over, I think back to the other night, we like literally shared Ben and Jerry's and we're watching March Madness and the boys were asleep. And that was like golden, like for us. We were able to actually get away. The first time that we really like took a day trip, we went to the SEC tournament and watched Arkansas.
That was the first time in a while. I think back to what we told y'all, like our story, right? Like we went to California, and that was a big part of like our first couple months of understanding, okay, like, this could be us for a long time. And that was a lot of our story. It's like, we went to, I remember Jekyll Islands in South Georgia and took a great trip like before Cash was born. And there's like a lot of little snapshots of that. And I share that because we haven't had that in a long time. And some people may be like, Carson, make it work, or y'all make time. And it's just like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, we've been pregnant for like 2 years, and we moved, and babies are crying, and we're also trying to build businesses in life. So I think we're being the lessons that we're trying to grab a hold of from the Lord right now. It's like, okay, how do you, and maybe this is like a lesson for somebody that's like young and trying to figure it out. How do you love each other, enjoy each other, cherish moments together when they're not sexy? Because you don't have that privilege right now. Like your greatest privilege is to like feed a little dude with a bottle and eat ice cream and watch basketball in your living room. Can that be enjoyable? Can that be, your greatest moment of love? Like, you've got to make it that, and I think there's been a lot of those little moments where like we don't have the time or the margin to run down to Siesta Key or Miami like we would love to, being in Orlando. But we've got kiddos, and we've got just different things, and we're still trying to learn. So I would highlight that. And I would say in the midst, and part of the love language too, Erin is a lot more servant-hearted and grace-giving and compassionate than I am. I would say though, even though I carry some of those traits for us, I'm just super hard on myself. And so I feel like Carson's enemy to him pours into our marriage. So as, just a faith leader, a business leader, somebody wanting to just like take care of me and push myself, I think that can present a lot of hardships to us. So it's never like, I haven't found us a lot of times, it's just us being honest, like we don't have a lot of like heavy fights, but I would say that I bring on a lot of just rain over our parade with just like, I'm fighting with myself and expectations. I expect things to be different for us. And then I kind of just shower that over her. And then it brings us together to say, okay, well, what are we doing? Are we accomplishing anything? Are we good parents? And yeah, so I don't know. I'm not saying like I'm our biggest issue, but I think I've had personally a tough, and maybe I don't know if we're going to share, any of that, but from our move to Charleston to Florida was really tough on me. And I think I bled out a lot on our marriage and our home because, I was trying to find healing with the Lord, going from like pastor to like not a pastor, to one city, to a new city, to dad life and etc. And so just me kind of sharing my heart, I've learned just to allow my wife to love me, allow myself to maybe not share all this overwhelming amount of information to her, but to find just sturdy guys around me to confide in. I think that's helped me help our marriage. And then again, like I said, cherish like our moments, our small, unsexy moments in the house with the boys where we've had to say like, yo, like this is our life and we love it and it's new and it's fast and it's different, but man, God's good. And he's been so good to us and we're still learning this married journey.
Yeah, no, I think that's important to highlight too, like getting real. As you say that, I really haven't processed that as much, but since things went a little quicker, we did have a lot of sexy moments. We went a lot of places, we did a lot of things. We were, still in our college town. We had a lot of friends. We just had a lot of fun together. And so getting married, yeah, we have a ton of fun moments. But adding kids into the mix, moving a couple times, losing jobs, losing friends, it became like, okay, how are we connecting?
Yeah,
like
roots
yeah, like not why did we get married, but like really like where are we connected right now? Like how are we similar? What things do we like to do together that maybe aren't, going to concerts, throwing COVID in the mix and, like, things like that. So we've really like had to kind of like peel back a lot of like, okay, who are we? Why did we enter into this covenant together? And I feel like the Lord's really like just provided a lot of, especially, within the past, month, just given a lot of that to us, just like enlightened us to that.
Yeah, a lot of clarity.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Yes. I love that y'all talked about marriage and how your marriage is affected through life change, like in every stage. I mean, we are right now, so we've been married a little over half a year, and we're going through this series. It's called The Crazy Cycle, and how men want to be respected and women want to be loved. And if a woman's not loved, then she's disrespectful. And if a man feels disrespected, he's not loving. And how when you get into arguments and you just go in this crazy cycle. And I feel like we're solid for like a month. No fights, everything's blissful, it's amazing. And then we'll have like a week of like knockout, drag out fights. We're both pretty stubborn and we both like to be right. And so sometimes getting through these arguments are difficult. And literally last night, we are like, man, we thought we knew each other and we put in a lot of work when we were dating and when we were engaged to set us up for a successful marriage. You always hear the first year is the hardest. And I'm like, oh, we're doing pretty good. Honestly, if the first year is the worst it's going to be, we're going to have a really good marriage. But there's always things that you're going to learn about each other and that you're going to have to rework out. But I love how you mentioned, hey, throw in the kids, because that changes not only like yourself, but it affects your marriage. I've always heard that. Obviously, we don't have kids yet. So it's good to hear from you guys about how it's changed and how it's making things harder. I guess one of my questions was, how do you prioritize your marriage and kind of figuring out, having to relearn what your marriage looks like when you do have kids? Because that's something I've never even thought of, is that your relationship would actually, like, things are going to change because now you're a mom or you're a dad and you're personally changing. So thus your relationship is going to change. Join us next week for the second part of All About Relationships with Erin and Carson Case.